Ways and Means meeting. Please join me for a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. Do we have anyone for public participation on something not on the agenda? All right, I'm assuming not. All right, we'll get right into it. First on the agenda is we had two tabled items from DPW from the 19th. The first is Article 7-12, the dog pound renovations. Do we have anything additional from the subcommittee on that? Sorry.
No, not at all. Mr. Chairman, I think you were good enough to send out the backup that DPW supplied. I think we informed the committee, the subcommittee voted 2-0 on the concept, and I think if there's any questions on the backup, we certainly can have answers, but the subcommittee did not re-meet, if that's the question.
That's fine.
Yeah.
All right. And thank you, Brian Way, for joining us again. I appreciate you coming
Sure,
back.
you're welcome.
And definitely appreciate all the additional backup. That was extremely helpful.
Hopefully that was what you're looking for.
All right. Do we have questions on 7-12, the dog pound? Everyone got the additional backup on that, right? Yes.
Not me,
Not you.
yes.
Are you on the Ways and Means distribution list? Have you been getting those?
I've been getting them all the time. I didn't get anything today.
Today.
It was a couple days ago that.
I didn't
Monday,
get it a
5-1.
couple of days ago either.
That's weird. I can't explain that.
Okay. I
All
can,
right, did other people get it?
Yes.
Yes,
All right, so
twice. It's also online.
maybe you could talk to someone in ISAC about that. Just kidding. Okay, I just had one question. Is the roof sound on that building? I know it's sort of an old one.
Yeah, it's in fair condition. I mean, it's not new, but definitely can get some more years out of it.
All right, so we're not expecting it to be leaking next year, right?
No.
Okay, great. All right. Anything further?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All right, this is Article 7-12, dog pound renovations for $100,000. Those in favor, raise your hand. Oh, wait a minute, Roger's remote, so we're going to do this by roll call. Welcome, Roger.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I won the lottery, sort of.
Yes, well,
lottery, no
sorry
one wants
about
to
that. Okay, we'll do our reverse alphabetical. David,
Yes.
Sonia,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
I think that was a yes. Rob,
yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Chris Delaney,
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
We don't have Brad here, right? Yeah, okay. Cheyenne,
Yes.
chair votes yes. That is, I'm off by one, hold on. 12-0-0, very good. Next is Article 7-13, facilities, upgrades, and energy conservation. Did you have anything on that, or should I jump, Brian?
You can jump right through, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. Yes.
Brian, did you want to add anything beyond your backup on that, or?
Just that I think I realized one of the tables didn't have a title, so just for I think it might have been page 3 of the packet. It just lists a lot of items that have 3 highlighted in green. So this is kind of the master, the original master list when we brought in energy consultants to kind of identify all the hit list for the town. So this is kind of the items we're working off of. So in a few years, you can see that it doesn't, what we're asking for now doesn't cover everything. This is kind of the every other year, 200,000. We just keep picking away at this list.
Okay. Do we have questions on this? Frank?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So your intent is to do the solar panel project this time around?
Yes.
Some
Yeah.
of the weatherization in both the annex, Mill Pond, and the town hall.
Yes.
And that roughly comes to the two, it doesn't, it's a little hard to add this up, because it's all over the place, but I think that comes out a little less than the 250.
Yeah, so there's the Mill Pond Solar, it's in weatherization, which is about 20,000. The weatherization for,
Well, you don't have to do the math, Brian, I'm just trying to get an idea. There's some other things you'll throw in if there's money.
yeah, so it's, I think last time I mentioned the town hall annex roof.
That's a big ticket item.
Yeah, not, it's roughly 70,000 for the shingle
You
portion.
think it might fit in this warrant?
Yep, so we have that.
Okay.
There's a water heater, town hall that is on that energy efficiency
Yeah.
table that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And then there's we have a design, the HVAC system for both buildings designed. As part of that, they, going through the design and inspection, they recommended adding on fan coil replacement.
So you think you can get to some of that, all those things out of the 250? I don't have a problem with the 250, and we know where 80% of it's gonna go immediately. It was a little unclear what the rest would be. They're all off that list, though, so that's good. Okay, thank you.
I'm curious, how do you prioritize projects? Is it simply the one with the shortest payback years, or is there something more going on there?
Yeah, no, that's something that we do weigh heavy, but part of it also is kind of the location. If we're already in a building, does it make sense to add some of the other things that, since they're already in there doing work? So there's a number of factors that we kind of, it's not just one that we use as the determinant factor. As I think I mentioned last time, weatherization is green communities won't allow us to apply for a grant until weatherization is done for HVAC projects. So that's kind of been also a priority, so that it opens up the door for us to apply for HVAC grants.
Okay, great. Anything additional?
Second.
Becky? All right, this is Article 7-13, Facilities Upgrades and Energy Conservation for $250,000. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes,
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That is 13-0-0. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you. Sorry for not having this the first meeting.
Yeah, this is fabulous what you brought. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Going to move on to the Town Hall 2 articles now. And I think, since we have a, well, while we go on to, we have Nick here. Okay, great. So we'll move on to Article 22 to start off.
22.
The July 4th parade. And Megan, do we have a subcommittee report on that?
Yes. Brad and I met with John Denizio to talk about Article 22. This request is for $20,000 to help fund the town's annual 4th of July celebrations. Traditionally, the town has been contributing approximately half the cost of the event in the amount of $20,000 each year. Last year, I believe it was approved for $40,000. These funds are used to retain performers, participants, police details, and other essentials that make the 4th of July festivities such a success. The subcommittee reported 2-0 voted 2-0 in support.
Great, thank you. We have Select Board Member Nick Priest with us. Would you like to add anything to that?
No, that was actually spot on. Last year, we came before everybody and asked for double the amount, 40,000, because of COVID issues. And I promised on the town meeting floor that we reduced that back to our 20 going into this year. In doing so, we can't do fireworks this year. Fireworks are just wildly expensive, especially at that time of year, right? Supply and demand. So we've opted just to stick with participation and make the parade itself as best as we can. We also do fundraising on our own. It's very difficult to get people to come out and give $1 here or there. It seems like in today's day and age, folks are giving everywhere. So that's why we, rely on town meeting support to make it happen.
Great, and if I understood correctly, the total estimated cost is really 40,000 and just about half of that, is that?
So this year, we're aiming for the 20. So last year, the hope was to do the fireworks, and then it wound up not happening due to a conflict with the scheduling for the vendor. So that money went back, so we wound up only doing it for the 20 that we are gonna do it for this year.
Okay.
And that goes towards everything, like Megan said, from police details to having the Shriners come out, other performers, participants in the parade as well, bands and such.
Great. Do we have questions, David?
So just to that point, we appropriated the 40 last year. We didn't use the 20. But even though it was a warrant, we couldn't push that into next year. That money goes back into, so I'm kind of looking at John too.
Yeah.
That money goes back into free cash, even though it's a warrant for a specific reason, July 4th. We couldn't use that money. It had to be returned back to free cash.
I think it was for a specific July 4th is what it is, so.
Because this one, it doesn't say July 4th, 2023.
Well, that's a fair point.
I think traditionally, if there were any leftover, we've carried it into the following year because we were only able to appropriate half the money, so we have carried it forward. I didn't check before, but I can go check to see how much is left over from last year, to tell you what the total we would have this year.
So it's not in free cash, there's still
We did
an
not
open.
close that article at the
Okay.
end of the year, no.
Okay,
Because
good.
that's one where the bills trickle in.
Right, okay.
You would think you would get them all right at the beginning, but.
Right. And then, if I could have a follow-up?
Yeah,
Oh.
actually, yeah, please, no, I have a follow-up on your question, actually. Go ahead.
Okay. And then, just fundraising as a whole, you mentioned the big picture sense. So, Frank and I used to do this for a number of years and, had a good save till COVID came. We appropriated the 40 last year to kind of weather that. And then, how has fundraising been this year? The standard people that were, kind of contributing on an annual basis. It's a great community event. I fully support it. I think it really gets the town out. How has that fundraising been? Have people return, maybe not to the capacity, but
Yeah, so sponsors are returning, right? We have Wegmans, we have, I believe, I want to say one of the liquor stores in town. I mean, our typical sponsors do come back and give, and that's great. To try and raise more than that, right, to try and grow the parade to something bigger would require more funds, right? And my hope in that is that residents themselves wouldn't mind giving as well, right? Because it's resident run, right? I mean, it's town meeting funded because we're in the position we're in, but I think that if we get to a certain point, we can become a self-funded thing.
yeah, got it. Good, thank you.
Yeah, actually, I did want to follow up on that. So are you thinking there might be about 20K left over from last year?
So John just went to check, because I assumed it closed out, and didn't, so if it's still there, then we can probably withdraw this and still be
Right, then it
okay.
would make sense to use that first as opposed to building up a balance here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, do we have other questions? All right, I'm going to suggest we pause this one and come back to it when John gets back with the what's the leftovers answer.
There it is.
Oh, is he back? Excellent.
He's printing money now.
Perfect.
Have the color printer
do-
going.
You're just on time. We were wondering, what is the leftover balance from last year?
So we spent 32,000 out of the 40 last year. We have about 8,000 left.
About 8,000 left?
8,000, yep.
Does it make sense to then just have this one be for 12 to get a total of 20 that you're looking for?
I would be fine with that,
Would that make sense?
yeah.
Do you need a motion?
I think I do.
Or,
Or again, is it nice to have at least a little bit of buffer in there for a year-to-year basis, so we're not up against a cost, I don't know.
I mean, look, I'm never gonna oppose a buffer.
Oh, no, but, well, again, I understand what you mean by the buffer, but to the point is, you don't know each year what your actual costs are gonna be. So we appropriate a certain amount of money, and what happens if
Right.
bills come over a little bit?
Right.
Yeah,
Should that account have a balance in it?
And we spent 32 last year, so.
We spent
if only
30,
do-
yeah, without fireworks. We thought it was,
right.
the fireworks were canceled for a different reason.
Right.
What if we had the fireworks? Fireworks are gonna cost more than the 8,000,
Yeah.
so, I don't know, it's just short money, I don't know.
Just a quick comment here. I feel like it would make more sense to have that buffer because, I mean, costs are just going up in every respect, you know, no matter what it is. So I think it would be better to get that full 20 and have that 8 we have left over. Just my 2 cents.
Still gonna have to cut.
Mr. Chairman.
Other, yes,
I-
Sonia?
Yeah, I mean, I think that warrant article, you said in years past, have we carried over money, John or Paul? Have we carried over money in years past on
Yep.
that warrant? We have.
Yep.
So this isn't uncharted territories to be carrying it over, and I think there's no harm in leaving that 8,000, leaving the warrant at 20. You know, it's all getting paid and accounted for within town hall, and then we'll know at the end of the year. If you see now that there's a second buffer, then at that point, we'll know in a subsequent year. But until all of your sponsorship money is in, you want to make sure that you, at a minimum, can make up that, you know it's going to be somewhere in the 32 range, and has every sponsor stepped up yet?
Not everyone, no.
My recommendation is you leave that money alone until you know the sponsorships are there, and if there's money left over, then at that point, the judgment call can be made. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I may add that one of the benefits of having a little bit of carryover is for the bills that are due before July 1, to be able to pay those, because the money's already available, and may have not collected all the promised money from donations, and some of these folks need to be paid before they show up, since they're in high demand, a lot of these things around that time of year. So it's nice to have a little bit of something for someone that we can't put off until after. Just 20,000 isn't available till July 1, so having that little buffer is.
Okay, so it sounds like it could make sense to leave it there with the intention being that you don't spend it all so that you have the buffer to carry over next year.
Yes.
I'll make
Okay.
a motion to approve the original warrant article.
Second.
Okay, took a while, but we got around there. All right. So this is, let me just copy this to the right place here, so I don't lose track.
22.
This is Article 22, July 4th Parade for 20,000. Let's see, roll call is David,
Yes.
Sonia,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Mike, Chris Delaney,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Chris Campbell, Cheyenne.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0 for that. Next is the Article 24, which is seasonal decorations for the common. Do we have a report, Megan?
Yes. Again, Brad and I met with John Denizio to discuss Article 24. The request is for $20,000 to purchase seasonal decorations for the common. This is a one-time request. The money is meant to refresh worn-out decorations, invest in inclusive holiday decor, and create a more consistent look to how we decorate for various holidays, and the subcommittee voted 2-0 in support.
Thank you. Do you have anything additional?
No, that was great.
Okay. Do we have questions on this, on decorations? I'm just curious, do you have can you name like the top 3 things and what they might cost, just to get a sense of where this 20K came from?
So I don't have exact numbers, but you know, when you start talking about like bunting and banners and things like that, the cost adds up very quickly, right? And I think that the select board was beginning to feel like, as great as it is to light up the common whenever we want to celebrate something that's only recognizable at night, and especially in the summer months, it's hard to see. And so we figured we could be more consistent and more, I don't want to say showy, but to have a little bit more showmanship on the common when it comes to, you know, celebrating as a community.
What do you think is the biggest ticket item? Name one.
I mean, like I said, I think like it's gonna be like a bulk buy of, you know, banners and bunting that's gonna be a large, you know, determining factor of the cost. You know, it's not like we're gonna put like a statue or anything anywhere. So there's like no like one particular like call out item. It's the quantity of item, I think, is what the cost is gonna come down to.
Is this something that carries forward from year to year, or?
No, it's a one-time cost, so, I mean,
This will last us a
This
few
will
years,
last
is
us,
what I'm
yes.
wondering, yeah, okay, great. Additional?
Quick question.
Champ?
Does this 20K not only include like putting up all the bunting, banners, lights and everything, but does it also cover the, I guess, electrical costs of lighting up the common?
I think, I mean, and Paul and John, stop me if I start talking out of turn here. I think electrical costs are getting rolled into like our general. Thank you for coming up. Smart move on your part.
No is the answer. Cheyenne.
No. I gotta learn how to keep my answers short.
Good answer.
Does that do it for you, or?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, that electrical cost is included in the town's electric bill in general. is,
Okay.
I think the answer.
And then, we don't want to talk about it too much because the rec director is right behind us, but those are the guys that go and put everything up for us. So, there may be a cost, but I think someone's nice enough to pay for it.
I
Yeah.
wasn't sure about like the running costs of all that stuff, because I mean.
I heard that.
That's running year round.
All right, do we have additional? Chris?
I guess I'd love to know more information about the celebrations and who's gonna be the one specifically deciding what these different lights or banners or events are gonna represent. Is it just Burlington, or are we talking about holidays, and how is that then gonna be determined?
Yeah, it's a fair question. We haven't fully talked that out as a board. You know, we're saying seasonal because we want to keep it open, right? And I think that as we have that discussion, we want to open it to the community, maybe have a public hearing or two, and really understand, you know, what folks are looking for. So that to Shine's point, we are more inclusive, right?
I think, just a comment, I think that the concern is there's always a vocal majority and not always the minority of different populations we have in town that may attend those forums and want to feel comfortable to speak up during those forums and want to say, hey, this is a holiday I would love to see. You know, I know it's June's right around the corner, we have Pride Month coming up, that always tends to be an issue here in town as well. So some of the things that we know that need to be addressed or should be addressed, but not to forget about the vast part of these communities that may not attend or have access to these types of forums, and how we are going to get the entire community in on this, because if we're going to be spending community funds for holidays or celebrations, wanting to make sure that all people have an ability to have a say.
Point taken.
Anything additional?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All right, this is Article 24, seasonal decorations for the common for $20,000. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes?
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney? Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. Next is Article 26, Burlington celebration of its 225th anniversary. Megan?
Yes. Again, Brad and I met with John Denizio to discuss Article 26. The request is for $20,000 to provide promotional and advertising materials to town departments in preparation for the anniversary celebration on February 28th of 2024. The intent of these materials is to have them distributed to various celebrations throughout the year, such as the 4th of July Parade, Truck Day, Celebrate Burlington, and the subcommittee voted 2-0 in support.
Anything additional?
Yeah, so to that, I will add, the big thing here is that as the select board began discussing the 225th with the Historical Commission, you know, it's very evident to us, and just in our general experiences, I'm sure all you have experienced, is that getting volunteers, like we had 25 years ago, can be very cumbersome these days. And so in an effort to maintain our ability to support the 225th anniversary and celebrate it, we felt like front-loading a package of materials and assets to deliver to organizations and to town offices would be the most advantageous way to ensure that we can all singularly, as a community, celebrate the same thing without everyone having to lift extra, you know, during their individual events.
Questions? Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little fuzzy on what the kit of assets and materials means. What is it?
Yeah, so again, intentionally left ambiguous, only because we're not 100% sure yet. It's definitely going to involve logo design and making sure that the assets and the print files are prepared, so we'd have to engage with a graphic design vendor, and that's where the majority of the cost winds up going. And then hopefully, you know, it doesn't cost the full 20, and we have the opportunity to maybe purchase some of those assets so that staff and, you know, some of the organizations have, say, a T-shirt already on hand, things of that nature. So the goal is to basically prep that package, and it's probably just going to be digital files, really, that everyone can then adapt and use as we roll it out.
Okay, so like graphical artwork that can be used to label things and create.
Yeah, exactly. So think like email headers, banners already pre-made, T-shirts kind of already prepped, things of that nature. So, you know, Brendan, for example, when he's doing one of his events, can just grab that file, have the shirts made, and he's already ready to rock and roll without having to, you know, go through the whole rigmarole of, you know, knowing where everything is, contact the right people. It's just preset.
Okay, gotcha, thanks.
Chris?
I guess more of a comment here is, have we ever thought about using the high school and having a student competition to try to create a graphic? And I only say this because in another organization that I've been involved with, we use the art department and interns through there to create some pretty effective graphics for the organization. And not only are we pulling in our youth, we're pulling in our community into this, but also they're very talented and could rival some of the graphic designers that potentially could be put out there.
Yeah, knowing that a lot of the work has to kind of get started in the summer, we were concerned about the timing, right? So the anniversary is next February, and we have to be ready for that, so that from next February throughout the rest of the year, we're prepared. And so we felt like putting the onus on the school system in an off-cycle, you know, time of the year wouldn't be the best approach. But that was the first place that we went. Yeah.
Anything additional?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All right, this is the Burlington Celebrate 225, Article 26 for $20,000. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. We have one more article that might have been you, which was Article 28, Sculpture Park, but that has been withdrawn. But I did have the question of who's actually in charge of the Sculpture Park?
So the Sculpture Park is a subcommittee of the planning board. And right now, Jim Tigas is our liaison from the select board.
Okay, great, all right, so I just wanted to make sure we know who to ask in the future. All right,
Absolutely.
thank you very much.
All right, thank you all very
I
much.
think that's everything for you. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Take care. All right, next is Article 20, and we'll come back to Article 15, since I don't think we have a large crowd for that yet. We'll go to Article 15, I'm sorry, 25, the historical shed. And do we have subcommittee information on that, Megan?
So we actually did not meet about this article. It was supposed to be withdrawn. As a little bit of backup or history, last year, town meeting supported a warrant article for $33,000 for the purpose of creating a shed that resembles the blacksmith shop that was once on the town common, but this would be at the West School site. The article at the time was important and continues to be important to the Historical Commission because of Burlington's 225th anniversary approaching, as we just discussed. And after town meeting approval, it was discovered that the cost and scope of the project was larger than originally anticipated, but that's really.
Okay. Hi, we have Joyce Fay with us from the Historical Commission and Peter Coppola. Would you like to add something to that?
Well, the explanation is pretty simple. When we went to pull a building permit, the building inspector made a determination that the property was a non-conforming site, and therefore it required a special permit rather than just issuing a building permit by right. So that triggered a whole series of events, which includes a resurvey of the site, a plot plan of the site, drawings of the elevation of the building proper that we're going to construct, going before the planning board for a special permit, all of those things of which we do not have the technical capabilities to accomplish, and the town doesn't have the capabilities to accomplish, so we have to go out and find vendors to do the work for us. And all of those things add cost.
Okay. Okay. So I think one of the things, just with it, and I appreciate you coming to speak with us today. So obviously, one of the concerns is that if you know a project can't be done within budget, or within the warrant article, then you obviously want to hold off on any spending, because
Exactly.
the last thing we want is to have a project that's half done, and then you have to go back to
Yep.
to town meeting and get what you really needed. Is your intention what is your intention going forward on this?
Brad suggested that we pull the article for the May warrant and then put it for the September. And by that time, we should, I would hope
Hopefully have
we would
quotes.
have all our ducks in a row and be able to go forward with it. I'm not sure. I think we need to ask for more money to go with it, because inquiring with some of these things, it might cost more than the $33,000 that they already gave us.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get money for the additional work that has to be done.
Right,
So we'll have to request. So in the fall, we'll come in with those numbers, hopefully.
Okay, so the plan is to look at what you really need to do and figure out what the new price tag might be, and bring that up again.
Yeah, it's just a question of identifying contractors who will do the work. Maybe we can find some people that will do some of that pro bono, we don't know. That's the exercise we're going through right now.
Okay. Sonia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'm looking for a little clarification. Non-conforming, the property's non-conforming, but the building is standing.
Well, what happened, Sonia, is that when it was a school,
Yes.
it was a by right use on the site.
Yes.
So this would have been an automatic, here you go with a building permit. But now that it is no longer a school but a museum is not a by right use on residential zone property. So that means the site is non-conforming.
Yes.
Even though a shed is okay on the site, it is considered an extension of a non-conforming use, so therefore we have to go to the planning board to get a special permit approval.
Confusing, right?
Well, no. I mean, yes, but
The easy thing would be to just have the school department and take the school over and open it a couple of times a year.
well, I guess my question, and it's a question that we really should find an answer for you before you go through a lot to get to September, because quite frankly, in order to know your costs, if it's a non-conforming, you're gonna now need to pay for a site plan and a use and a special permit and go before the planning board on that.
Right,
Which is no small feat.
No, any fees associated with the special permit, so going before other boards, as a town entity, those fees are waived. But we still have to pay for an architect, and we still have to pay for a surveyor.
Correct. And do you have the funding mechanism to do that before September?
Sorry, what?
Do you have the funding to do that before September?
No, that's where we need to get those numbers, so we can come to you in September and say, here are the numbers.
So we're looking at, you're gonna go in September to ask for the money for the architectural design.
Right.
To then move forward for the January town meeting or a May town meeting to actually do the work, because the 33 won't cover it. At that
The
point.
33 was for the materials to build the shed.
Correct.
Everything we have to do independent of that is what we're going to need funding for.
Okay. I guess my question is, the building has been I'll hold my question for not Ways and Means. But I would love to talk to you about that. I guess my question is, where it's a town property, I understand that it's residential zoning, but there's a historical building, or there was an old school there.
Well, this is where I kick myself in the butt. When I was on the planning board 35 years ago, we made a agreement with the rest of the town offices that any town project follows the same process as a contractor on the street coming in. So we put the town under the same burdens as contractors. So 35 years ago, we wouldn't be here talking to you. The work would have already been done.
Right, and I mean, right, but I don't necessarily disagree with the town having to follow similar guidelines. I guess my question is where the use of it, the particular use that's happening there isn't really detrimental to the site, nor is it changing a use that hasn't already been utilized there in theory.
And I think the planning board will see it that way also and just rubber stamp the approval. It's just, we have to go through the process.
Understood, okay, thank you.
Additional? Okay, very good. All right, so there's nothing for us to vote on here, but thank you very much. It was good to get the update. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Why don't we'll save 15 to the end here, I think. That makes sense. So we'll move into the rec department warrant articles. First is Article 7-18, a Ford F-550 dump truck to replace R2. Have a subcommittee report on that.
We do, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to fill in for Roger. Roger does a better job at subcommittee reports. Actually, I'm not sure. Roger and I met with Brendan to discuss the warrant articles. This one is for a Ford 550 dump truck replacement for $90,000. It was, the pickup truck was new in 2011. It presently has 115,000 miles and problems with its body, electronics, and engine. Central Maintenance recommends it being replaced. The new dump truck will have a plow with it. Subcommittee voted 2-0. Obviously, it comes from the state bid as well.
Okay. Welcome. We have Brian Egan from the Rec Department and Steve Nelson from the Rec Commission with us. Would you like to add anything to that?
No, Sonia did a great job. Also, this would be our second dump truck. We have one now that's tied up for, in the spring and in the fall. It is tied up with a leaf box on it, so moving anything else, mulch, anything, playground fiber, any of that type of stuff, sand, it gets, we have to take off the leaf box, and it's not one of those quick, oh, it just pulls off, you set it down, and it's bolts and takes a good hour or two. So replacing the current pickup truck with a dump truck would allow us to continue to function in a more efficient manner.
Do we have questions?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Chris?
Yep. So we're going from a Ford 250 to Ford 550. I guess I'm bringing up, I brought up other ones, we're now talking about significant gas mileage decrease. And I'm not disagreeing with the utility of the vehicle
Right.
here. But, you know, I think when we look at where some of these costs then continue to creep up here, you know, we're going for a 250 to 550. I mean, I'm seeing less than 10 miles per gallon. I could be wrong, and this is just a quick search. So I think as we continue to look forward on these, the vehicles that are being requested continue to go up. And I get it, going from Rangers to bigger trucks, we can do more. But making sure that when we're doing this, we're thinking about the future costs that are gonna be associated with these. I mean, we all know we're not gonna go to green dump trucks right now, that's not the possibility here, but, you know, I just feel that they're very shiny trucks, and we're just going to them because that's what we want. And again, I see the utility, but just being careful of when we're looking at gas mileage and the other costs that come associated with these vehicles.
Understand that, but when our vehicles are used to plow in the winter, and a 250 is undersized to plow on the streets, and someone from Central Maintenance or Highway would be able to explain that better, but a smaller pickup truck is not meant to do road plowing, which is what our staff uses it for in the winter. So that's the other part of it as well, which is why you'll see 250s not being purchased, and you'll see 350, 450, 350 might be even undersized these days, so.
Doug?
Yeah, just to support that, and as a past subcommittee person, if you look back over the last several years, John Sanchez would report that they were having more and more trouble hiring outside plows and companies, and so This has been an ongoing program that we kind of agreed to a while ago, that as we replaced vehicles, sometimes they would need to be bigger and more powerful so that we could do our roads and our parking lot. They used to only do like parking lots, and they would hire out to do the streets, and now we're having to use our own equipment for streets. So it's kind of critical if we're gonna do our own plowing and.
Yes.
Chris Fall?
But I'm guessing, I'm assuming, but then plowing could come from also overtime to pay staff to do plowing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So that's where I'm just talking about the increased cost, that in the end.
That's not an increase, though. If we do, our people doing overtime is cheaper than if you pay somebody to use their truck and their time, by a
No,
lot.
I'm with you. I'm just, when we continue to make these decisions, my other point is, there are ramifications going forward with gas mileage, gas overtime of employees, and I don't disagree, we've seen it.
Right, but I'm just saying, we save money by doing this.
Okay, well, there's other ways that I think we're also potentially losing money too. The saving money for the plow drivers, that I get. But when I'm looking at gas, that's where we're gonna be losing money too. So.
Rob?
Thank you. Why are you getting a gas truck and not a diesel? Just curiosity.
It was recommended when we looked for a bigger truck. It was researched through Central Maintenance, and they came back. I didn't even think about the gas diesel when we got the quote. I'm not sure what the diesel option, if there is one for that vehicle. I'm sure there is.
I assumed that there was because it's a big freaking truck.
Well, might be a good idea, just put that on your list of things to ask to see if, presumably I had a good reason, but just to double check. Good question. Cheyenne?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick comment on Rob's question there. My understanding is diesel trucks tend to be significantly higher powered in terms of torque and that kind of thing. Wouldn't that make more sense for what we're going to be using it for? I mean, we might lose a little in terms of the cost of diesel versus gas, but if we're using it for heavy-duty activities, I think a diesel option might be something to explore.
When we are ready for our next vehicle, I can compare the two and see, what comes out as the more powerful truck for the dollar.
Okay.
Doug?
Couple of things. One, we've talked about that in the past when we just looked at different vehicles. If I remember right, part of it has to do with how often you start and stop. So a diesel truck doesn't do well if you start it and then you get to you drive 5 miles and then you turn it off for 3 hours and then you start it and then you drive 2 miles. It's really made to start and run for hours at a time. And so unless we want it sitting in the park idling while they're doing that, that's probably not the better choice. And second, we have a gas station here and we buy gas in bulk. We don't buy diesel. I don't think we have many diesel vehicles. And for the last couple of years, diesel's been quite a bit more per gallon than gas, and the mileage isn't that much. So they do last longer, they cost more, they last longer, they do have more torque and power, but they don't do well if you start them and stop them and start them and stop them all day for turning it on and off. So that was the discussion we had in the past.
Are fire trucks gas also?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting, okay. Other questions?
We have a motion on the floor, Mr.
Yeah, there's already a motion.
Oh, very good. You're way ahead of me. Thank you. All right, this is Article 718, Ford F-550 dump truck to replace R2 for $90,000. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes?
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. Next is Article 719, Outdoor Facilities Master Plan. Sonia?
Mr. Chairman, again, Roger and I met with Recreation regarding the Outdoor Facilities Master Plan. The cost is $62,000. We touched on this briefly a few weeks ago when the schools were before us with their athletics plan. Recreation is doing their own master plan as theirs expired in 2020. It is not the same, nor does it mimic the plan that's happening with the school department. The school department is looking at certain fields, which are the athletic fields. This one will be all-inclusive. It will include the playgrounds. It will include some of the other fields that are not necessarily used by the school department. And it will look at, it will look at a picture as a whole for recreation. They are going to work in conjunction with the school department, of course, with the fields that overlap, but this one will look at recreation as a whole. What else can I tell you? It's not a duplication of effort, because Roger and I absolutely asked that question. And the outdoor facilities plan will also look at the miter field and will include concept plans for revitalization of Simons Park, which I was reminded was 25 years ago, because I was like, oh no, I was on that committee 25 years ago, apparently. So in any event, it will, I know, I have the sweatshirt still, which means I don't throw anything away, okay? So in any event, it is going to be done. The one that's on has expired. Subcommittee voted 2-0 for $62,000 for Recreation's master plan.
Thank you. Would you like to add anything to that?
Sure. So our master plan, outdoor facility master plan did expire in 2020. We had it as a potential warrant article for the last 3 years, but it was pulled as other things became more important and more vital. This plan includes all town parks, playgrounds, as well as school properties, and will give us a comprehensive planning document going forward. Two of the big things that it does do for us is they are going to provide us with a conceptual, well, before we get to that, it will include the school's athletic field master plan, so we'll incorporate that information into the document. It will also incorporate our needs assessment that we had done for our department a few years ago, as well as the town's open space and recreation plan. So it will take those ideas and incorporate them into the plan. It will review all of those documents, and they will include those similar items into this plan. It will give us a conceptual plan for Overlook Park, which is our former maintenance garage. You may know it as that, or where the Burlington Players have their theater. We are going to be applying for a land and water conservation grant next year for that property to reimagine that property, and part of that is having a conceptual plan. Conceptual plan on its own could be $5,000 to $10,000. They are going to include it into this document, as well as a conceptual plan, as Sonia mentioned, for the Simons Park Playground. We are looking to, that playground is 25 years old, and the cost, we're spending $5,000 to $10,000 a year to repair equipment, replace large pieces, slides, things like that. We have a group, a few parents in town. One is a corporate attorney, and her husband is a commercial real estate, and they feel that they can gather some pretty significant donations through those channels, but for them to make that work, they need a conceptual plan, which we need one anyways for the park. So it will be a universally accessible playground, utilizing the different topography there. The ledge will be able to use ramping and utilize the different heights of the ledge to get participants with a disability up to the top levels of the park and be able to participate with everyone else. So that conceptual plan is also included in this. When we first quoted this back in 2020, it came in at about $54,000 at that point. Now we're 3 years later. By taking out some of those things, the athletic fields that they don't have to do, incorporating our needs assessment, as well as the town open space and recreation plan, there is a very small increase, and it comes down to the conceptual plans and just the costs of doing business now as opposed to 3 years ago.
Thank you. Any questions? Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So will this, are you expecting reconfiguring existing fields to be the type of recommendations that they would make?
So this document would be looking, that will be done with the school master, athletic facility master plan. This one will look at all of the components in a park, site amenities, if there's bathrooms, the need for bathrooms, water fountains, playgrounds, benches, picnic pavilions, all of those type of things. In what was considered a good idea or something to strive for 20 years ago in that plan, the way people recreate and enjoy their leisure time is completely different now. So it may come up with, different amenities for a park that we don't have now through that planning process, so.
Okay, but they're not gonna say, this baseball field should be replaced by something else in this particular park.
It could be a suggestion, but there will be a time, community meeting where people will be able to give their input.
Will they make recommendations on improving, like, existing fields, like, say, some fields are, kind of get waterlogged in the spring, and that type of thing?
So that will be in the athletic facilities master plan. So it will be incorporated into this document.
Okay.
On facilities that are in the athletic facilities master plan and would be, because they're just looking at the athletic fields in those facilities, not the amenities as far as bathrooms and things like that.
So the athletic fields include all the kind of parks in town that have athletics played on them, is that
School department athletics, right?
The school department
just the school field?
fields, yes, for the most part. If the schools play on them, utilize them for athletics, they are included in the plan. They do have some money set aside to include other fields as well, but they're just looking at the athletic facilities and the amenities that go along with them, bleachers, lights, things like that.
So something like Lower Rahanas wouldn't be included in that because there's no school sports played there?
Probably, yes.
Is there a plan for those types of?
Well, that would be something we would look at in our plan,
Okay,
how that could be best utilized.
all right.
Do you have something, Doug?
So, yeah, a couple of things. One, we're on a committee that got a sweatshirt?
Excuse me, I was on a committee where I bought a sweatshirt. Yeah.
I feel ripped off.
Yeah.
A Ways and Means sweatshirt. Okay.
I'm gonna get you one now.
So, so the school field survey is only school athletic fields. I was thinking last year it was supposed to do all athletic.
It includes the athletic fields that the schools have activities on. And there are some additional, they are looking at MITRE, because that could be something where the softball teams, JV and varsity, could both participate at the same time. If those fields were reimagined as two-skinned infields, softball-type infields. So they are looking at some facilities like that. Are they looking at veterans in Regan Parks? Not necessarily, but those are some, those are ones that they considered that they could add into the plan as funds allow. There was some, TRW. But maybe that is a field that, you really can't play an adult softball game. You can't play one on those fields. But, they work for T-ball, but could it be, a sub-varsity lacrosse field, say? There is a long run there. So they
Kind of,
will.
but not totally.
Correct.
Cheyenne?
Yeah, sort of a two-part thing. Thank you, Chairman. Follow-up to Mike's question about Lower Rahanas. I walk my dog there a lot. It gets pretty soggy when it rains. Are there any plans to improve drainage there, that kind of thing?
Those would be items that would come out of this.
Okay.
And what improvements we need to make by them walking the properties with us and going through what activities currently take place, and they would make suggestions on what could take place. They would take suggestions that were in those other plans and incorporate it into one document.
Okay. And second part, does the common count in all this, or?
No, the town common does not. So we maintain the town common, but it is under the direction of the select board.
Okay.
It's actually listed on the quote.
Is it?
Yeah. Basic project goals shall include the following: town common.
We might have asked them, but I don't remember the conversation specifically listing or talking about the town common. But I will ensure, I can ask that it's on there.
Just slightly different. So I've looked over the material, and this is great, by the way. Particularly with Overlook. So what could happen with Overlook is probably way outside of what we've ever done with it. And it's a spectacular site. The views up there are incredible, and it also abuts some conservation land. So I don't know what all the opportunities are, but I'm hoping that they can bring some creative discussions to you, particularly with regard to Overlook, because it would be something that it just doesn't exist today, would be my guess. And the time is perfect, because we're kind of getting out of there with the facilities, and I think it would really be great if they could come up with something. So I encourage that.
I think the ideas that we've talked about is trying to be cognizant of the small neighborhood that's up there and the
Right.
tight streets,
Right.
not increasing traffic, but using it potentially as a more passive recreation area with that connection to the trails.
I'd be all for
there's-
that.
yeah.
Let the Windmere section, kind of like Wildwood did a lot for really a pretty, a relatively small area of town, but there was nothing but a vacant, dilapidated building there, and it's absolutely beautiful now. And something similar could happen, maybe even more spectacular for not necessarily a lot of money. So I encourage them to be creative with that one.
Yeah, and if we are, as I mentioned, applying for a land and water conservation
Great.
grant, which is a federal grant but managed by the state. And, as you mentioned, we have an opportunity for something spectacular there that not a lot of places have, right? We have 16 acres there leading off to 27 acres of conservation land, so.
And it's very elevated with quite a view.
Right,
So,
yes.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, just in response to Mr. Monaco's comments, that's one of the things I think that the commissioners felt so strongly about was the Overlook Park piece of this study. And if we spend $62,000 just on Overlook Park, it would probably be worth it, because that's a gem. Right now, it's an eyesore, and we could really convert that, like Frank was saying, with the Wildwood Park into something probably even more spectacular. So we're really excited about this prospect. Weston and Sampson is a great company. I think they do work in the town of Burlington already. They do water treatment plants. They do all kinds of things. If they're the bidder that wins this project ultimately, I think they'll do a phenomenal job. So we're really hoping that the committee supports this tonight. We're all excited about it. Thank you.
Excellent. Chris?
I'm excited to hear when the plan comes out, they're gonna talk about accessibility of the playground. But when they do the actual report itself, are they gonna talk about the current accessibilities of our parks and our playgrounds and give recommendations potentially for there?
Yes, and that is another big part of that plan. Thank you for bringing that up, Chris. That our parks are not accessible, and 20 years ago, the ADA standards were there, but, our goal as a department has been to make accessible improvements every time we make an improvement to a park. We've done that with walkways at Simon's. You can now park in an accessible spot and actually get to the wading pool on an accessible walkway and not chance going down the driveway and making that right turn. Our next phase for that will be getting people from the tennis shed that's kind of down there by the skate park down to the lower courts where the pickleball and tennis court are. And then our third phase, and probably the largest, and we're working with the Simon's Trust on this, is getting people from the front of the Visco building to where that tennis shed is. because that's where the main, incline is. So it's part of our plan to make everything accessible. And we understand some things with terrain just might not be able to be made accessible right away, but the plan is to continue down that path going forward, making things. Thank you for bringing that up.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. This Article 7-19, Outdoor Facilities Master Plan for $62,000. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yeah.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. Next is Article 7-20, accessible van. Sonia?
Mr. Chairman, Roger and I met again with Brendan to discuss the accessible fan. This is actually, the $25,000 is actually additional funds that would be added to a warrant article that was approved in May of 2021. That original request was $58,000. The prices have increased, of course, and the van was not available in 2022. So that additional 25 will cover the current estimate, a bit of room in case there's an additional. Of course, as we all know, warrant articles are not to exceed, so it really just covers, and then anything else would be returned back to the town. The van, in the long term, is a more affordable way to transport participants in the recreational therapeutic program compared to using rentals, so it makes sense to have one in-house. Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Would you like to add to that?
Just that, yes, this is a in addition to a article that we had and that we were successful with at town meeting in FY '22. They weren't making the vans, they are making them now. We have cut transportation out of our budget with the idea that we would be getting a van then. Pandemic came, a lot of our trip-based programs in therapeutic recreation were not happening. Now we're back to that. We are utilizing a van with the, sharing a van with the Youth and Family Services, but we do not have one that is accessible. This van would allow us to take participants that were in a wheelchair or are in a wheelchair, and we could take 2 at a time. We do have participants in our program that are coming up that will eventually be into the program that does, outings and trips. So this is a vital piece to our program. And again, we cut the funding, our budget that had the transportation in it.
Questions? Megan?
Thank you. What's the lead time on this van? How?
So we've gotten different numbers from 6 months to a year. So the earliest we could do anything is July 1st. So we would probably be looking end of the year at best.
Do we have a current way to transport people who ambulate using wheelchairs?
If we had a participant that was in it, right now, the families have been really good and met us at the locations. But if they were not able to, we would have to find a van and rent it. So we wouldn't turn someone away.
That's what I want to hear. Thank
Yep.
you.
Chris?
So I guess this is an overarching question, possibly. When we are looking at estimates, do we have somebody at the DPW or looking through these and trying to see consistencies for things that will keep vehicles to last longer? For example, one of the things I was impressed when we gone through some of these truck requests, there have been the WeatherTech floor mats that will extend the life there, which is an part of this. And, looking between this one and the last truck one, I didn't see a backup camera that's part of this that may be something that would be good to consider too. But when does the DPW just look at some of these for consistencies and looking at and trying to see if there's ways to add a couple of things here and there that could increase the life of some of these vehicles that we're purchasing? Maybe it's just an open question.
I mean, I think that's an interesting question, Chris. I'm not sure that DPW looks at every, quite, I know central maintenance makes recommendations to departments based on whether or not a piece of equipment, and you'll see it in a subsequent word or an article where they say a piece is good, but we're gonna place something else in it. Regarding what the pieces within each vehicle are, we can certainly ask the question, you know, and ask that question when it goes out to bid, that they can see if they can tweak something to get more for the dollar. I mean, at specialized vehicles like this, obviously, there are some components that have to be there, and then they'll have to make a decision if they can add certain things, but it's certainly well noted.
Yeah.
We could certainly ask that question.
And the reason I say this, you know, we have gotten traction on this in these vehicles
Sure.
for well past what,
Sure.
what their expected life is, and that is because it's clear that we have people that are really taking care of these vehicles.
Yeah.
And when going to then purchase, that little more could extend those vehicles' life a little bit further.
I'm
So-
sure we could certainly, it's well taken, we could certainly ask the question of central maintenance.
Just to follow up on
Steve.
that. Will the vehicle be housed in the garages when it's not in use and not subject to the elements?
No, the recreation division's vehicles are stored outside, up at 61 Center Street. If this was, I mean, we could look at an option to put this indoors at our large maintenance garage. We could probably fit an extra vehicle in there. It's pretty large. Just the convenience of getting it, you know, because it would be
Understood.
used multiple days during the week.
Right. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All right, this is Article 7-20, accessible van for $25,000. David,
Yes.
Sonia,
Yes?
Roger,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Chris Delaney,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Chris Campbell,
Yes.
Cheyenne.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. Next is Article 7-21, dump body replacement and tailgate. Sonia?
Mr. Chairman, the dump body replacement. It
Sounds
just
sad
sounds
when you put it
really
that way.
ridiculous.
That sounds crazy.
Right, but in any event, Roger and I met as a subcommittee to discuss, this is a perfect example of rec and central maintenance working together. You know, I'm gonna say this right, the R6, the body is actually in decent shape. It was replaced in 2013. So what they've realized is that the dump body and the lift gate need to be replaced. So the lift gate doesn't latch, the body is rotting, but they believe they can actually replace those and still get mileage out of the actual truck itself. The replacement cost for that is $25,000, which of course is far less than buying a complete truck. So it was, in our opinion, money well spent to be able to continue to utilize trucks that's there and just replace the tailgate and the dump body. Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Would you like to add to that?
Just that, yes, this vehicle was replaced back in 2013, and the body from the vehicle that it was replacing was put onto this. And so that body is now 10 years old, or, well, more than 10 years old, because it was on a vehicle before, and it's starting to rust through. It's our trash truck, no other really way to say it. So it is out being used every day. And you may see it has racks on the back and lots of trash in the back. So it is used every day. The lift gate, without it latching, it could fall at any time. It's not safe for our staff to operate it, nor anyone to be walking around it. We've, found something to make it work, to latch it right now, but we do need to replace the lift gate as well. So the truck itself is in great condition, well-maintained, clean inside, even for a trash truck, and runs well. So we really just need to replace the components on the back end. We could get another 5 to 7 years out of this.
Great. Questions?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. This is Article 721, dump body replacement and tailgate for $25,000. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes?
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
lost Cheyenne briefly. Chair votes yes. That's 12-0-0. Next is Article 7-22, street hockey renovation. Sonia?
Mr. Chairman, Roger and I met with Brendan and his staff, and this is a discussion. It was something similar to what Mike was talking about, where the locations of the street hockey and the pickleball courts are going to be exchanged, so it's utilizing one for another. The swap is to reduce noise levels reaching the neighbors across Church Lane. I think we're all aware that pickleball has taken on a life of its own, and we're just trying to be cognizant of some of the neighbors up high, so Recreation believes doing that switch will work. The current street hockey area service will be smoothed and leveled, and the pickleball nets will be added and courts marked. The acoustic panels will be moved to the new location to help buffer the noise. Did I write anything else here? Revamp the estimate because the base seems to be fixed. I believe that's it. Subcommittee voted 2-0. Did I miss anything on that, Brendan?
No. And the less I have to talk about pickleball, the better.
Right. But I think,
Staying out of
to your
trouble.
credit, I do have to say to their credit that, they're trying to find the happy medium of being able to address the needs of the community, but also address the needs of the neighborhood. And this seemed to be a perfect way to kind of utilize that lower spot.
And I assume the presumption is that hockey is a lot quieter than pickleball?
Yes, and less people playing hockey on a consistent basis than pickleball, which is, as we all know, the fastest growing sport in the United States.
Excellent advertisement. Any questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right.
There should definitely be sweatshirts for that.
For
Is
all
the rec-
pickleball fans, this is Article 722, street hockey renovation for $50,000. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steven?
Are you mad at me?
Sorry, Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Hey, you mistriggered, now I don't know who I am.
I didn't use your middle initial, that's why I'm angry.
That'd be a yes.
All right, Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. And finally, for rec is Article 27, will of Marshall Simons. I sent out an update on that today. The amount of money is $74,907.15. Sonia?
Mr. Chairman, as those of us who've been involved for a long time know, this is the warrant article where we are accepting money from the will of Marshall Simons. This family and the trust have been giving the town money to put toward Simons Park for a gazillion years. I really
Yeah.
don't know.
Since 1906.
There you have it. And the number, as you said, has just come through for $74,907. Recreation then decides the projects that they will apply that toward. We're grateful for the trust for continuing to support the town and the park. Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Would you like to add to that?
Just that we are very appreciative of the Simons Trust. And as you know, last year's disbursement in the year prior were pooled along with the donation from the Gillingham family for the creation of the accessible treehouse, which is a wonderful addition and asset to the park. And just, if you didn't know, we recently were the recipient of award through the Massachusetts Recreation and Park Association for design of facility for the treehouse. So we were awarded, or presented with that award at the state conference a few weeks ago, and Joshua Simons, who is a great-grandson of the Simons Trust, of Marshall Simons, attended. So I think it was great for him to be able to see that his vision, because he was all for a treehouse, is being recognized across the state. So we are very thankful for the funds that get dispersed every year, and we meet with them once they come up with a figure. We meet with them and come up with projects. We propose projects for them, and they approve them or say, can you get a little more information on this? So we'll have a full list of what this disbursement would be, a full backup for fall town meeting. But this does require 2 votes, and we have to go now for the first.
This is the first of the 2
Yes.
votes.
Yep.
Very good. Steve, you got something?
I think you mentioned it, but you'll have a list of the projects that you'll be doing in the fall?
Yes, so this number was just given to us last Friday. So we'll now put together our list of proposals and meet with the trustees.
Okay, thanks. I'll remember to ask back in September.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Anything additional? Thank you. Okay, this is for Article 27, Will Marshall Simons for accepting the sum of $74,907.15, the first of 2 votes on this matter. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. I believe that's all the rec articles. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you again.
Time to mow the lawn.
Next week's gonna be
Can we
fun.
get
If it stops raining.
Can we get a quick tutorial on how to play pickleball?
Paddles.
It's big time. Yeah,
All right.
Roger?
Oh, yes, Roger, I'm sorry.
31. What's gonna happen with Article 31?
It's withdrawn.
Yes, has that been officially withdrawn at this point?
The proponent has told me they're withdrawing it. I don't know if it's
right,
officially
well, that-
withdrawn, but yes, the
That's-
proponent got back to me.
That sounds official enough if he said that. Okay. All right, thank you for asking. All right, so Article 31, we're considering withdrawn, so we don't need to vote on it. Okay, so getting back on schedule here, Article 15 is the PEG Cable Access Enterprise Fund. Do you have a report on that, Megan?
Yes, Brad and I met with John to discuss Article 15. Article 15 sets a cap as required by law on the amount of money that that can be appropriated from the enterprise fund each year. The amount of money has not changed and remains at $585,000. Subcommittee voted 2-0 in support.
Thank you. Would you like to add to that?
No, I think everybody hears this every year. It's an annual, not to exceed number that's voted on, and it's really just we act as a pass-through to collect the money from the cable company. And there's a detailed memo in the backup from Whitney Haskell.
The cable company collects the money from the subscribers. They pass it along to us, and we pass it along to BCAT, essentially the mechanism for that.
So just to be clear, this not to exceed number, but we don't know what the actual number is until when?
The end of next year, when we know how much, because it's, as they collect it, they pay it to us quarterly.
The end of FY '24, or? Okay, so basically, we know by the end of the fiscal year how much of this 585 they actually collected that.
Yep.
We
And
can,
we haven't decreased it, but we're not gonna get to that number this year, so assuming, cable subscriber numbers are only going down.
okay, so we think this is a good upper bound of what might actually be collected. Sonia?
No, Roger.
Oh, I'm sorry, Roger.
Just to follow up, so as I understand it, the funds are paid quarterly by the cable companies and they get passed through to us. Sorry, I'm on the BCAT board, truth and interesting stuff. Anyway, so it gets paid quarterly. We don't get more than the cable companies pass on from subscribers. So this is just a good upper limit so you know about how much to expect. Thank you.
Right, Cheyenne.
To the point that cable subscriptions are only going down, would it make sense in the future to explore partnering with a streaming service or one of the many that are out there to offer our BCAT channel on one of those?
Well, I guess one of the difference is that the cable companies are required to pass this money along, where I'm not sure about the streaming services would voluntarily be willing to share the revenue.
Right.
It could be a real problem for us in the future, and it's something that we may have to contemplate. The companies are fighting really hard to get out of having to pay these fees, and at some point in time, I think in the future, the town may have to make a decision on whether it needs to supplement that support to BCAT. So just something to think about. Not currently an issue, but every negotiation with the cable providers, they're getting more and more aggressive. The federal landscape has changed in terms of what the feds are requiring them to do to essentially use our right-of-way through town with their wires, and it's definitely a changing landscape from where it was, 10 or 15 years ago, so.
Trouble ahead.
I mean, we could always just put it on YouTube and put like ads on it, collect revenue from there.
Can I answer that?
Yes, Roger.
So Shai, you should actually watch BCAT more. BCAT streams quite a lot of material onto YouTube and on Facebook Live. So a lot of material like tonight is already available in streaming. The BCAT board is well aware of the situation and is looking at the overall long-term effects about what could be done within the bounds of providing services to the town, because pretty much everybody agrees that it's very valuable, broadcasting the meetings and sporting events and everything. So BCAT does provide a lot of value to the town. Fortunately, we're not at the point yet where revenues are falling so badly that we need to do something right away. Hopefully, when the time comes, the town will be, as John said, we'll take it into consideration about how to fund it if other funding mechanisms can't be found. So, thank you.
So I don't need to put in a product placement for the Home Depot gavel or something?
I would think a sledgehammer for.
Gavin's gavels, by the way.
Anything additional?
Motion to approve
Second.
before we get out of hand.
I thought that would stop your conversation. All right.
Move to approve.
Yes, thank you. All right, this is Article 15 to pay Cable Access Enterprise Fund, upper bound of $585,000. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. Next is probably John's favorite one, Article 19, fund the administrative professional plan. Does Town Hall 1 have something on that?
We do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met with John to discuss, this is the A&P plan, which is full-time employees in a non-union group, although they do collectively work in agreement. But it includes department heads, assistant department heads. John put a nice memo together. The salary increase for next year, similar to other contracts that were negotiated, are at 2.5%, with some adjustments between the steps, as we've seen in other in the other collective bargain groups. 48 people that are in the plan. The total amount is $208,516, and it's a transfer out of the negotiated settlements. Subcommittee voted 2-0 in favor.
Great. Would you like to add to that?
No, that was a good job, and one thing I will add is that the transfer from negotiated settlements so it doesn't change the budget at all, is already submitted in the budget that has been approved by this board already. So it's just a mechanism we have to do to transfer it from negotiated settlements into all of the lines of the different departments in order to pay the department heads, managers, and the like. That's it.
Questions? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quickly, so we don't have any other open contracts or
None on the town side.
negotiations, right, for this fiscal year? And is this the last major, if everything passes, this is the last major drawdown on negotiated settlements?
Yes, we'll be the only one.
Right. Okay, that's great. I'd ask you what the balance is, but doesn't matter really.
I would just say, Frank, this is an annual one. This group doesn't have multi-year contracts.
Right,
so-
right. I was more worried about the account, the negotiated settlements account. Thank you.
And negotiated settlements is one that effectively carries over from year to year, so whatever we don't happen to use one year just gets added into the pot for the next year.
Right.
Okay,
Motion to approve?
Second.
thank you. All right, this is Article 19, fund the administrative professional plan for $208,516 from negotiated settlements. David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep.
Delaney?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, that's 13-0-0. Article 31 was withdrawn as mentioned earlier. And I believe that's everything for you guys, right?
I promised our economic vitality wizard I would leave these flyers for you to take on your way out. So I'll leave them over by Frank. He
Thank
promised
you.
he won't steal them all, so.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you for joining us. All right, next, just make sure I'm not missing anything here. I believe that's everything, great. Okay, so I did have an item called other things for town meeting, articles, budgets, business. Does anyone know of anything that we've not voted on? I believe we have, as far as I know. So there's no subcommittees that have something where they're saying, gee, we never brought this up. Okay, good, that's the correct answer. All right, so the General Bylaw Review Committee has asked to join us. They had a previous warrant article, or set of warrant articles that were withdrawn to basically propose various things about remote and hybrid meetings and the associated bylaws with that. Looks like we have Dave Miller with us. Oh, and Scott Martin. Okay, very good. Would you like to introduce the topic and what you're looking for here, Scott?
Good evening, all. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Martin. I'm the current chair of the General Bylaw Review Committee, the GBRC. Also joining me is a member of the committee, Dave Miller. So as John mentioned, back in January, we had 5 different articles on the warrant. This was in anticipation of the open meeting laws, emergency approval of remote access to open meetings expiring March 31st. And we were trying to get something on the January warrant to maintain those as open, and we got word that that was probably going to change. And there were a number of other things that we found that we decided weren't quite good enough. Things that descriptions and definitions and various wording problems that we didn't take care of on the original articles, so we withdrew them. There was an extension until March of 2025 of the open meeting laws being able to continue to have remote access to our open meetings. Still nothing for town meetings at this point. So what we've been doing is going around to various boards and committees, asking for, based on using the articles that we had in the January warrant, please give us your wonderful comments and thoughts and ideas about um, what we had. We know there are going to be a bunch of changes. Um, and there are several things going on in Boston that will have an effect on this if things are approved. So we still need to go, we still want to go ahead and get Burlington on board with open meetings, being able to have remote access. And we're also proposing that town meetings also um, have remote access to town meetings. And there are several different reasons why we do want to do that, primarily to increase the participation, mostly the public participation in what we're doing. And this will hopefully bring on more participation in the elections and the uh, people running for various offices and a whole bunch of other things, because they will have seen and heard and developed some strong feelings about how our government is being run. We also are hoping that with this increased implementation or increased participation, that more public comments and more things about what needs to be added or taken away or whatever. And then lastly, it opens the doors for those who are marginally, I don't want to say disabled, but they stay away from being involved because they can't drive at night, or um, they are sick, they're immunocompromised, they have physical disabilities which make it almost impossible for them to get from the parking lots to um, the meeting rooms or whatever. Um, so we want to. There are several things that several people within town meeting members that are classified as disabled according to the ADA, AA as amended. And so we're trying to make sure that those folks are able to participate and to be involved in town government. Um, so it's probably one of the things that we need to be careful of is that there are about 425, give or take 50 or 60 meetings, open meetings, and in the town each year that currently we have been having with remote access with since March of 2020. A lot of the meetings were totally virtual. And as of recent, like this one, are in person and have some people joining via remote access. This is called a hybrid meeting, what we are on. And it's not like we don't know how to do this. We've been doing it with the town meetings, not the big town meetings, but the open meetings. For since March 2020, but most of us sit around and have Zoom or WebEx or Team Meets or whatever almost every day. So it's not like we don't do it and we don't understand how to do it. We do it. It's the biggest question is implementing the town meeting, and there's some obstacles to overcome. We realize that, And this is some of the things that we need to work out before the September meeting, which we should be doing. There are a bunch of wording changes I mentioned to straighten out things like what's the difference between town meeting with a big T and a big M and town meetings with little t's and little m's, or open meetings, if you will. Defining what the difference between a hybrid meeting, a virtual meeting, and what is remote access, and a couple of the definitions that have come up during these talks. So what we are looking for primarily from you folks is, again, your comments and some questions and thoughts about what we can do or what we should have in these articles to make sure that we've got all of the bases covered, all the Ts crossed and all the Is dotted. Are there anything that anybody would like to ask Dave or I at this point?
Great, thank you, Scott. Tran?
I guess, how are we reaching out to people who want to participate in town politics, so to speak, but don't know how to do it?
We're going to advertise on BCAT.
Okay.
No. There are a number of things that there are a couple other articles that are going to be on the warrant in September, one of which is how we advertise our meetings. It will allow us to advertise on electronic media, not just in the town hall or the library. Used to be, the bylaw states that we have to post it in 3 different newspapers that service our town. Well, there are no longer 3 different newspapers that service our town. So we're going to open it up. We're going to try and get approved the electronic media advertising, and just more information about the town calendar that's on the website and links that are there and that kind of stuff, the agendas.
Just a follow-up to that, I mean, even like a mailer to all the residents might be something that gets people's awareness up a little bit on this. There's a thought.
Okay, great.
Other comments or questions? Chris?
I mean, I said this in January when we talked about it the first time, but I think it's a crucial part that we've come and learned from the pandemic and now have come to enjoy. But for many of us, it's been very important. As many of you know, my wife and I had our second child come in January. I don't know how I thought I was going to make it through budget season, to be honest. And I think I only had to use remote maybe once or twice, but just that option, knowing that was there, took a lot of stress over coming to these meetings. And I think when you get involved in town politics and join boards and are at town meeting, you understand the importance of the conversations, but it's the representation of our voters that are why we are at town meeting. It's we're elected to represent the voters from our precincts. And I think you have to leave it up to the voters to decide if they like that you're participating remotely or not. And if they don't, then they'll recall you. But it does increase the accessibility for single parents, for parents with sick children, for adults that are taking care of their older parents, for so many different populations, or you're just not feeling great yourself that day. And you probably shouldn't be among other people, but you're feeling good enough to participate. I think any one of us can think of a whole host of reasons why we might choose on that one day to participate remotely, where we also know the value is in the conversations that are here in person as well. So I think it's a juggle, but looking at the participation on BCAT, looking at the participation on Facebook, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes when you look and you have 6 people watching these meetings here at Ways and Means, you're like, whoa, that's a lot of people watching a Ways and Means meeting. But you have school committee can go over 100 that are watching remotely or are accessing to have public comment remotely. And what that is more public participation in our town. We're getting more residents interested. We're getting them more involved, knowing the power and really the work that we all do here. You know, this is a big lift to go through all these budgets. And it's better when more people are looking at them because we find mistakes and we find things and we question things and we go through the process, and that's a good thing. And I think that this is really important for us going forward as a town to say, we want everyone to have the ability to participate. They may not take it, but have the ability to participate in the different ways that they can.
Thank you.
Other comments? I'll throw something out there.
So there's a couple parts to what's in the current proposal. There's the town meeting part, having that be a hybrid meeting, and our open or public meetings other than town meetings for all the various boards and commissions being hybrid meetings. And as stated, just to be clear, these would be required to be hybrid meetings. They wouldn't. It's not an option. It's a requirement as written. So I'll admit that's a part where I'm not so on board. I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of meetings to be hybrid where possible. You know, certainly all the Ways and Means meetings have been hybrid this year, and you know, I would continue to do that. I think where it becomes more questionable is, you know, it's not obvious to me that having every one of our subcommittee meetings be a hybrid meeting is something that should be absolutely required by bylaw. I think it's something that if people think there's an interest that everyone wants to hear about the dump body replacement, you know, that one should be hybrid, obviously. But, you know, maybe there's, you know, it's not obvious that the additional effort that goes into making a hybrid meeting, and there is effort in that, you know, you need to set up the WebEx, you need to publicize that, make sure the link doesn't get broken, and, you know, 5 other things. Yeah, you know, Doug gets here early every meeting just to start up the WebEx. So it's not without a cost in terms of effort. So while I think it's great to make things accessible, I think there's also a cost where it's not obvious. It always makes sense. So from my point of view, I would suggest making it an option, and I think certainly the article that makes it possible for a quorum to be remote and for the remote attendees to be counted as they can be now, but will expire in 2025. I think that's a great thing, but I think it may be going further than makes sense to require it of absolutely every committee and subcommittee meeting. So that would be one suggestion I would have. And I'll state an unpopular position, perhaps with town meeting, where, you know, I would argue, you know, people have stated that, you know, we've done it several times and it works great. My opinion is that it works terrible. You know, I find nothing more frustrating than having to listen to 1,000 people say, "Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Can you repeat the last 15 minutes of the meeting because the sound didn't work?" You know, as we've been through all those things. And yeah, things have gotten better, but, you know, those technological problems still come up. And I think for something like town meeting, where it is literally 3 meetings a year, you know, the requiring some effort to figure out how to get there so that we can interact in person, where I think a lot is gained by actually being in person, is important. So it's a trade-off of you know, making it easier for everyone versus making sure you have the most effective meeting possible. Having a lot of people meeting ineffectively is not necessarily a win. And for me, I found it to be a lot less effective. Plus, I think there's some legitimate issues of verifying that you have a valid vote. So how do you know, as they say on the internet, no one doesn't know if you're a dog. How do you know that the dog isn't voting in town meeting? They're pushing the little button there. I mean, that's obviously taking it to extremes, but it is something to consider is, how do you know, at least in town meeting, the person was sitting there may have accidentally heard what was going on. I've been in a lot of remote meetings, school committee meetings, for example, where I've watched people fold laundry on, without even looking. I got a question, is that someone I really want involved with, making a vote? That wasn't a school committee member, I want to make clear, that was not.
Happens with you guys, right?
Yeah, so at any rate, I guess I just wanted to bring up a few alternative things to consider in this that, it is a trade-off, it's not just a total win. And certainly town clerk is, described, has enumerated some, interesting costs associated with making the town meetings hybrid that, would need to be considered. Is that, what we think makes sense. There's certainly some real positives with it, not to poo-poo the whole thing by any means, but just wanted to get those out there for something to be considered. Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, gentlemen, John's really described, I think, really well the situation that's here. I just wanted to add that, I'll give you an example. We had a subcommittee meeting tonight that lasted 5 minutes with 3 people, and to have made that mandatory remote would have made it almost impossible to put the thing together. So there were some things that don't lend themselves very well in the open meeting realm. They tend to be the small, really small meetings. In general, I think it could work well for what you call open meetings, but making it mandatory, I'd worry about that. I think the discretion of the chair or of the committee should be considered, but I think it can work fairly well, in fact, very well. For town meeting, which is fundamentally, there are 2 things going on there that make it a huge outlier, and John has given you a lot of examples of that and input. The size of it, the dynamics of the interaction of the people, the fundamental purpose of getting everybody together to debate in one place verbally, face to face, really is very hard, I think, to duplicate on this format. I mean, I can't imagine 150 people up there and I've got the face-to-face reality. Or as a town meeting, it's not infrequent that I actually turn around to look at the body and to look at the speaker and to look at the people that are reacting to the speaker. And that all gets lost. So I think town meeting is a real difficulty. I think making it mandatory across the board, even if town meeting wasn't included, could be a problem. And you should consider those things. And like John said, I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are lots of benefits that come out of the ability to attend remotely. I would point out the town meeting has always been broadcast long before COVID, but it's a one-way thing. You could watch it, but you couldn't participate. If you wanted to participate, you had to go to the town meeting. So I'll leave it at that, but continue to try to work it and see what you come up with. If we could make town meeting left out and did it for open meetings and not mandatory, I think this would probably initially catch on a lot more easily, and I don't know if that's an option in your minds. Thank you.
Thank you. Right now, the articles are separated, so that the open meetings would be voted on as one article. The town meetings would be voted on as a separate article. That's the way we had them in January, so there's always that possibility, but I hear you both making the town meetings not mandatory. We want to make sure that we continue to have remote access for the town meetings, whether they be open meetings or the big town meetings. So that's.
Can I chime in here?
Go ahead, David, please.
Yeah. I'm one of those people who Scott just talked about. I've got some medical conditions that make it very risky and difficult at best to attend in-person meetings. So, in fact, I have not attended the last two town meetings because they were in person. And I've been a town meeting member and been serving on multiple committees for the past 7 years. So, and I feel I've been a very productive town meeting member and committee member in that time. And I need to have remote access. There's just no two ways about it. So whether it's open meetings or town meetings, I have to have, in order to do what I consider my job, so to speak, I need to have remote access. And as Scott mentioned, at the state level, there are some pending bills to make open meeting law meetings hybrid. And the ACLU of Massachusetts has taken an interest in that. And they are trying to convince legislatures to pass those bills. And in that vein, they actually interviewed me on this matter. And that interview, a video clip of it is posted on the website. If anybody's interested, I can send a link out to whoever to see that. And there are also a few other people who were interviewed to get their side of the fence on this issue.
Thank you. Chris?
So I just want to respectfully disagree with the 3 meetings a year. Because sometimes town meeting is 3 meetings and 1 meeting itself, may can go 3 different meetings. And I think the unfortunate thing that we see after that first one is the attendance sharply decreases from night 2, and then if we have to go to night 3, it's even further down. And again, this is another reason for people who, okay, I planned for the first 2, I didn't plan for the third, could have that ability to have access. And I don't buy the tactic that because we don't know what's on the other side of the screen. I mean, we don't know when people are signing in. We don't know everyone at town meeting per se, and we're not checking IDs because we don't need to. And as a society, you're saying, I don't want us to keep pushing to the level of, well, where do we need to go? Because if you look at the statistics when it comes down to voting, people are inherently honest. And there's actually very little voter fraud that happens during elections because of these. But these are these tactics that are used. I take it back to our voters. Our constituents are the ones that should ultimately be the ones that determine this, because they're the ones that will send us there. And I worry that as a body, we're thinking about ourselves and sometimes and how we can access and what we like and what we are used to. But our demographics, our population, our town is changing, and the workforce has completely changed. I mean, I used to do all in-person meetings in school administration, and now 95% of them are remote. And I could never imagine that 3 years ago, and I probably would have hated it. But our voting population is also used to it, and I think we need to remember the things that help to make our town great is the accessibility and the ability to bring those votes back in and to have those conversations. I understand that. The last point I just want to make about subcommittees is that's also a lot of where the real conversations happen. We have a lot of trust in each other here in Ways and Means because we've sat there, we've talked we faced the person, we've asked the questions, and then we're actually ready to answer questions for our fellow members. Sitting on the school subcommittee, we actually have town meeting members that do join because they're interested and they want to hear those conversations. And I understand that, yes, some of them are 5 minutes, or some of them we need to go back and we need to do this. But it is a little bit of work for a lot of payoff, which is accessibility, it's open, and it's the ability for the public, for the town, to be able to see what's going on. So it's transparency. And that's the ultimate goal that all of us are trying to do here on Ways and Means, is make sure that the budget is transparent, that we can share at town meeting what our recommendations are because we have vetted it, and they trust us because we've done that process. But we can also further inform by them being involved. Are some of the subcommittee meetings always going to be exciting? No. But if people want to join, my opinion is let them join. They have the time, they want to learn more, they want to be involved. It's a couple clicks of a button and up it goes. So that's just my 2 cents.
Chad?
I think maybe I'm being nitpicky here, but I think we need to sort of clearly define the difference between accessibility and participation, because people can, watch us, have our meeting, but they don't necessarily have a vote. Versus, actually participating from, us as members, I feel like should be on a discretionary basis, whether or not we need to have that meeting be available for participation remotely or not. I feel like anybody should be able to access it, watch it, see what we're doing as far as transparency goes, but not everybody has a vote, even in town meetings, so.
Yeah, but there's public comment.
Okay, yeah, comment is one thing, but actually having a vote is a different thing.
Correct.
So, yeah, that's kind of what I want to clearly define as to what those terms would actually be.
I think that's fair. I think Chris was talking about participation in the sense of being able to, interact with, public participation. And then, as you point out, there is participation of actual members like Roger who are voting members. David?
I'm just curious, we do have a 3-year history now of remote at town meeting. How has attendance been? Compared to, say, the prior 3 years where it's been remote? Have we seen a significant increase in participation and attendance? Or has it remained, because it's 3 years, we have a very good history to run off of. Do you know what the stats are?
During the fully virtual town meetings, the participation was actually higher than it is when it's in person. I don't have the numbers for the hybrid ones that we had.
Yeah, the hybrid ones would be interesting, because again, I think when it was totally virtual, I think anyone was looking for any communication to have with anyone. Again, I need to have conversations with other people.
Yeah.
But again, these are now, that's what we're talking. I believe we're not talking obviously fully remote. So these would be hybrid. So having the stats the last 2 years have been, so it would be interesting to see, because if that's what anyways, thank you.
Okay, yeah, and certainly clerk has put the town meeting attendance on the website, so that'd be worth looking at. Anything else? Rob?
I represent one of the small committees, the library, and we don't broadcast or have hybrid unless somebody has asked us beforehand. And I'd like to have the option of not having to have a broadcast or having a hybrid if we don't really need it, since we've been on the board for 7 years, and I think we've had 2 guests in 7 years. I just think it should be an option up to the board.
Steve?
I just had a question about what does remote access actually mean? Does that mean you have to consistently provide both video and audio, or can an audio teleconference suffice? And is that defined in the bylaw?
That's going to be one of the, another article that we add that includes the definition of what is remote access.
And is your intent to make that both audio and video, or would audio suffice?
It could be audio, it could be video, or it could be both.
Okay, thanks.
I'm not sure what the dates are. I'm sorry.
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay.
Chris had his hand up.
Chris, did you?
No, I was just gonna say to Rob, that's a fair compromise. You have certain, the agenda's posted in advance, you're given a certain amount of time. I would say that if that's the compromise, that if you were the chair about to start it, you would hope that you wouldn't be getting the request, 5 minutes before, because you'd need the technology. But if that's a compromise that could be looked at, then, the public's given a certain amount of time to request remote access or remote participation.
Sonia, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Dave, I was just asking Dave if he remembers if what we had, we had something in the originals that you had to notify the chair or something 48 hours beforehand or something?
Yeah,
If you
I
were
think
going
there was
to
a
access it?
48-hour notification requirement.
There was something in there. We had talked about it, thought about it, and so that will probably can stay there, that. Yeah, okay, sorry.
Sonia has the attendance up here. Do we know when we were hybrid? And
When did we go back into town? When did the body go back? Well, how many meetings has the body been back in them?
June 2020 was when we were on the field, and then the subsequent ones would have been virtual.
So
2020.
When was the
And
hybrid
then
option?
The January one was in person.
January of 2022 was in person?
January of 2023 was in person.
I believe January of 2022 and May of 2022 were hybrid.
Right.
Right.
The last two, there's been two town meetings I haven't attended, and they were the last two.
September and January were, yeah.
Yeah, so it was January and May of last year that were hybrid. We done two hybrid ones we've done. Those are the two.
So
the update on?
the hybrid, January of 2022's hybrid was no more attendance than January of 21. They were similar, almost 80, 89 and 88. October of 84. The budget season of 22, which would have been hybrid, right? The first day was the biggest attendance, which when you go back to May is pretty standard, right? They're usually, the first day had 100, but then May 16th, it dropped to 88, which is the average amount that were in the other years. September, 92 people on a hybrid. September would have been hybrid as well, of 2022, yes? So on a hybrid, similar numbers to years subsequent. So the only one where it peaked was the first day of the budget season of May. So it's relative, I think it's what David's saying, which it's relatively consistent. There's a blip up a little bit on the first day, but otherwise, all the way back to September of 20, all the way through to 22, the average amount of town meeting members that come is anywhere between 70 and 90. And that's been pretty consistent. And
Yes,
so the question
Like I break in here,
yes.
So for these hybrid meetings, obviously, town meeting members had a choice of which way they wanted to do. As I remember, for both those town meetings, it was roughly 50-50 in person and remote. Not exactly, but reasonably close. So like if people vote with their feet.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. What
No,
I
I just want to bring that up.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that it's a very, my humble opinion is that I think people who want to be involved will either, if they have to be home, will go hybrid or not. I think the dilemma is that calling it mandatory versus leaving it optional based on what's going on around is really the stickler point, or the part that you want to talk about most. In a town meeting situation, I think the facial connection matters. I mean, I think presenting in front of people matters. I think getting the interaction back. I completely understand your concept that, there are people who can't come. So leaving that option open as opposed to calling it mandatory might give that flexibility of if it needs to be done, then a call can be made on it. Subcommittee meetings, I have to be honest, I think that would be a nightmare. I really do. I think we post subcommittee meetings, and I've been.
It's already a nightmare.
Yeah, well, I just have to be honest in that I think that the best way to do it is if someone needed it and you leave it as not mandatory, but have that flexibility, and someone really wants to make a comment in a subcommittee meeting, then it leaves that option of them being able to reach out to the chair to let them know so they can go on. But I've been going to subcommittee meetings for longer than I guess I care to admit, and we post them, and I could probably count for you on one hand people who come or want to come, because at that point, I think for people watching, the really important thing to know is the subcommittee is coming before Ways and Means, who's then going to town meeting. To hear those descriptions come forward, if it's that important to you, then you should be able to call the chair beforehand and say it. But to mandate it so that once a blue moon, someone may show up to a 5-minute meeting that's happening a half hour before Ways and Means, or at an early morning, you know, when I was on the select board there, God bless us, there were a few, you know, gentlemen who like to have that 6:30 or 7 a.m. subcommittee meeting. I mean, just picture going and trying to get that up and running for the potential of someone to come in. I think it'd be better served to say that it can be hybrid and that it would just need to be requested of the chair a certain amount of time before. Because I just think we're adding in something that, that would be difficult to mandate. You know, my humble opinion is the rule would get broken a lot more than people would care to admit, you know, on that one. But to leave it open in that you can, it could be at the discretion of a chair, and that it could be, you know, at the discretion of certain meetings, I think that makes sense to me, because then it gives the hybrid option without mandating it across the board. It would complicate subcommittee meetings significantly, actually, because you know, you post it, you go, and I've seen, like I said to you, it really has to be a controversial thing for me to have ever seen somebody join us at a subcommittee meeting. Major meetings, sure, you know, you could have that option, but I do think that mandating it you might find yourself getting some resistance, just because, you know, there is a value to having people in the room, and there is a value to being able to make a judgment call based on the meeting that's before you.
Anything further?
Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike?
Yeah, so just, I guess it's been said already, but I'll say it again, subcommittees, I've never had anybody come to a subcommittee meeting, even though, you know, we have to post it, you know, 48 hours in advance, and sometimes that makes scheduling difficult. The other thing is, we tend to meet in different locations, and there may not be the ability to have remote. I mean, if we made it optional and people requested that, then we could go ahead and do that, but sometimes we're meeting at the police station or the fire station. We're not always meeting in here, as an example. So it would make things a little more difficult. So I wouldn't be in favor of mandatory on that either.
All right, good topic. Thanks for joining us, Scott and David. I appreciate that.
There, I just want to summarize a little bit, mandatory versus optional seems to be the biggest one. Not sure if we need to have some kind of a vote that would allow the townspeople to vote on it. But that was brought up, if I understood that correct. We need to work on some advertising to make sure, if this goes through, how we would advertise our meetings better. And it seems that a lot of the problems that we talked about for town meetings are more technical than the open meetings. Right now, I know WebEx is making it very difficult, but there are some things that are happening at the state level that may make that more palatable from a monetary standpoint. And then again, making it, defining the accessibility versus participation, and how do we make sure that votes are properly recorded. So thank you very much for your comments, thoughts. I've written a couple of pages worth of stuff down. We will be working on this over the summer. We need to put some placeholders in June for the September town meeting, so what goes into what we put together between now and June will definitely be different by the time you see it for September. And again, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And
Thank you.
to your town meeting.
And you guys can't go yet. We have one last topic here, which is the approving the minutes, of course. So we have the minutes from April 26th that I sent around. I didn't see any comments, anything here on those. Okay. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. All right, David?
Yes.
Sonia?
Abstain.
Roger?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Stephen?
Stephen.
I did that on purpose, Steve.
Abstain.
Oh, just because I called you Stephen. Frank?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
I have to abstain.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Cheyenne?
Abstain.
Whoops. And chair votes yes. That is 904. Anything else for tonight?
Motion to adjourn?
Excellent.